Welcome to our virtual Tribe RN Commencement celebration. I know you were looking forward to your graduation celebration and you're probably feeling robbed, but we are so excited to celebrate you. We have some amazing guest speakers lined up today, as well as some words of encouragement from your fellow tribe members. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Marcus. Marcus Engel speaks from experience. It's not theory, it's not academic, it's reality. It's a journey that isn't always pretty, but one that's here to help healthcare professionals understand their vital role in a patient's experience. Marcus has a bachelor's in sociology, a master's in narrative medicine, and he has authored 4 books, which are being used by scores of nursing schools and allied health programs to teach strategies for excellent patient care. If you haven't read any of his writings, you should. Marcus has received an honorary doctorate from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, is adjunct facility at the University of Notre Dame, where he teaches pre-med students the art of being with. Marcus and his wife, Marveline, are the co-founders of the I'm Here movement, a reminder of presence, which is changing the culture of care through 2 simple words, I'm here. I'm so thankful you joined us today, Marcus. Welcome.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you're watching this. Hey, if you are a new nurse graduate, congratulations. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for the commitment and diligence that you've put in over the last several years to become a nurse. So I am not a nurse. My name is Marcus Engel, and I'm an author and a speaker and a professor and a consultant all throughout healthcare, but I'm not a nurse. I don't have any of the cool letters like RN or LPN after my name. I do have a master's in narrative medicine, and what we do in the work of narrative is to try to use storytelling to help those who are clinical professionals deal with compassion fatigue and burnout and mortal injury. And we do this through lots of different writing and therapeutic journaling and just storytelling in general. So what led me into this work is my story. And I have a little bit of a different story. First of all, I'm coming at you today from my home in Orlando, Florida. And I hope you will also pardon the quarantine beard that I have going on here. And so I'm a native of Missouri. I actually grew up in the rural, eastern rural Missouri. And when I was an 18-year-old freshman in college, I came home for the weekend, first weekend at home from college. And that Saturday night, I ended up going to a St. Louis Blues hockey game with 3 friends who I had made during my high school years while we all attended the same church camp and church youth activities together. And that Saturday night after the game, we were going back to a friend's house, and on our way home from that game, the car in which I was riding was struck broadside by a car that was driven by a driver that had a blood alcohol concentration of nearly twice the legal limit. That crash not only took 100% of my sight instantaneously, permanently, painfully, but I also had every bone in my face crushed. Maybe some of you have learned the term Lafort 3 fracture. It means that pretty much everything between the hairline and the chin has been shattered. And that was me. That was me laying in that intersection, tasting blood and gasoline, and not being able to see. Although I didn't know I was going to be blind at that time, I thought I had just been knocked for a loop. I remember laying in that intersection and trying to fight for air, trying to hold on to life. And thanks to a paramedic who was the first person on the scene, thanks to the crike that he had to put into my throat while I was still laying in the middle of that intersection, my life was saved. I don't remember too much about that procedure. I don't remember the ride to the level 1 trauma center, and I don't really remember too much about the emergency room except the pain, the darkness, and Jennifer. So that night that they pulled me into the emergency room, my life was hanging by a thread. I could have perished at any moment, and there was a young lady who held my hand that entire first night in the emergency room. Every time she could tell that I was conscious, every time that she could tell that I was awake, she would say the same things to me. She would hold my hand and say, "Marcus, my name is Jennifer. You were in a car accident and you're in the hospital." And that's really just bare bones information. I couldn't take a lot more than that. But yet, as Jennifer held my hand, she would repeat the two most compassionate words I think any human being can say to another. As she held my hand throughout that first wretched night, she just kept saying over and over, "I'm here. Marcus, I'm here. I'm here." And I didn't even know where here was. But I knew that in this world that had been turned inside out, upside down, and bludgeoned, Jennifer let me know that I was not alone. I was not alone. During a patient's most horrific, traumatic, troubling, frightening, terrifying times, you, new nurses, you will have the opportunity to be Jennifer for one of your patients. When you can sit with that patient in their suffering, holding their hand, and providing that comfort, it's not clinical, it's human. In fact, I say that simple human presence is the cornerstone of caregiving. But I think we can even take that a step further, that human presence, like Jennifer gave me, that's the very foundation of our humanity. When you as a nurse can witness suffering and vulnerability in a patient, and you can be present, that is what separates us from everybody else in the animal kingdom, is that ability to be present. I'm so proud of what you have done over the last couple of years, putting yourself through the education system, going through the licensure process. You guys have shown amazing amounts of strength and determination, and there are going to be patients just like me who benefit from the hard work that you have put in. Please, please, please do Florence Nightingale proud and be that comforting presence for your patients who are suffering. Thank you all so much today for allowing me to be your virtual commencement keynote speaker, and thank you for the work that you will do every day in this sacred field of nursing. Thank you all so much.
Diane Evans Pryor is a longtime New Mexico resident. She has worked as a bedside nurse in a hospital, long-term care, orthopedics, home health, and intermediate care settings. Passionate about sustainability and nursing, she has been a nursing instructor at Central New Mexico Community College, CNM, since 2001, moving into the director role in 2012, where she still serves as the Academic Affairs Director for Nursing. During her tenure, she has helped the program nearly double in capacity, In addition to the program growth, she's made the program more accessible, more affordable, and more ethically diverse for the student population it serves. Dr. Evans Pryor earned her doctorate of nursing practice from the University of New Mexico in 2016, focusing her studies on the need for transition to practice programs in hospital and non-hospital settings. She presents regularly at both national and local conferences and has authored many publications. In her off hours, she enjoys spending time with her husband of more than 30 years and her 2 children, one of whom she lovingly convinced to join us in this crazy world of nursing. So pleased to introduce to you Dr. Evans Pryor.
Hello, my name is Diane Evans Pryor, and I'm the Academic Affairs Director for Nursing at Central New Mexico Community College in Albuquerque. Congratulations! You have done a great thing by completing nursing school. Under the best of conditions, this is a momentous achievement. I think it's safe to say that at least your last semester of school was complicated by the impact of the global pandemic. This is a scary time to be a nurse, much less a new nurse. So I want to help you understand the impact that new nurses can have by telling you a story about an amazing nurse who rarely took no for an answer. Florence Nightingale was born in 1820 to a family of privilege. The younger of 2 daughters, she spent her childhood in England between 2 homes, one in Derbyshire, the second in Hampshire. And like all good upper-class families, they spent the social season in London. Florence was a precocious child who charmed her father. He indulged her education, guiding her through history and philosophy. At an early age, she was literate in 6 languages, and she excelled in mathematics. She and her father would read the works of the great philosophers and debate the politics of the day into the wee hours of the morning. Her progressive education caused her to rail against learning what she saw as the mundane tasks of running a household. She was driven by a different dream. And at the age of 16, she wrote that she heard the voice of God calling her to reduce human suffering. So Florence answered that call by routinely tending to the ill members of her family, and then moving to the household staff, and later, much to the dismay of her family, to the tenants of her family's estate. As her passion for nursing grew, she approached her father, told him she wished to be formally trained as a nurse. As unconventional as her relationship with her father was, that discussion was not met with open-mindedness from her family. She was of marrying age, and her family had several prospective matches in mind that would advance their status. After all, Florence was, if not a stunning beauty, an attractive enough young woman, and her education and intellect would certainly make her quite marketable as a respectable wife. Nursing, after all, was seen in her day as a vocation for the lower classes, which is a thinly veiled synonym for prostitutes, and a job not carried out under the best of conditions. As a matter of fact, being in a hospital was for the poor. Those conditions were filthy. The family's disappointment did not deter her from her goal. 15 short years later, Florence eventually got her way. She never married, and although there's not much written about this, one can guess that she sabotaged any suitor's attempts to woo her. Her family just finally gave up. And in 1850, at the age of 30, she was permitted to study at the Institution of Protestant Deaconesses at Kaiserwerth in Germany. After completing that rigorous 2-week program, yep, you heard me right, 2 weeks, she returned in 1851 for a second round of training, this time for 3 months' duration, and she learned what was needed to work as a hospital administrator. Through her family's connections, she became the superintendent of the institution for sick gentlewomen in distressed circumstances in London. And in her first year, she improved the overall quality of nursing care, improved the working conditions within the institution, and improved the facility's efficiency. She made improvements that included better organization and training for the staff, and implemented a system that piped hot water to every floor. She also created a lift to bring patients their meals. While proud of her work, she realized that she was just one woman. She needed more like-minded people to apply her principles in other hospitals. And what better way to do that than to teach? She was considering an offer to build a nursing program at King's College Hospital in London when war broke out. The Crimean War was brutal, and the British Army was unprepared to accommodate the battle injuries and casualties in Crimea. This led to secondary disasters such as cholera, which were made immeasurably worse due to a chronic lack of supplies and inadequate sanitation. Newspaper reports from the time stated that soldiers were treated by an incompetent and ineffective medical establishment, and that the most basic of supplies were not available for care. The British public raised an outcry over the treatment of the soldiers and demanded that the situation be drastically improved. British Secretary of War Sidney Herbert asked Nightingale to take her nurses and help out with the hospital in Scutari, Turkey. So on October 21st, 1854, she set out for the hospital with her 38 nurses that she had trained. When she arrived, she and her nurses were initially turned away by the military because women simply were not permitted to work in military hospital wards. And the military also balked at the notion that the Secretary of War had actually ordered her presence in the first place. She and her nurses were sent away, but they didn't go far. 5 days after Nightingale's arrival in Scutari, the injured soldiers from the Battle of Balaclava and the Battle of Inkerman overwhelmed the facility. Nightingale said it was the kingdom of hell, and as the casualties mounted, the British military finally granted her access to the field hospital. Although Nightingale had been warned of the horrid conditions there, nothing could have prepared the team for what they saw when they arrived at the British hospital in Constantinople. Besides the sheer number of casualties, the hospital itself sat on top of a large cesspool which contaminated the water in the facility itself. Patients lay in their own excrement on stretchers, strewn throughout the hallways, and rodents and bugs scurried past them. The most basic supplies, such as bandages and soap, grew increasingly scarce, and the number of ill and wounded steadily increased. Even questionable water needed to be rationed. More soldiers were dying from infectious diseases like typhoid and cholera than injuries incurred in battle. Well, the no-nonsense Nightingale quickly set to work. She procured hundreds of scrub brushes and asked the least infirm patients to scrub the inside of the hospital from floor to ceiling. So physical and occupational therapy a la 1800s. Nightingale herself spent every waking minute caring for the soldiers. In the evenings, she moved through the dark hallways carrying a lamp while making her rounds, ministering to patient after patient. The soldiers, who were both moved and comforted by her endless supply of compassion, took to calling her the lady with the lamp. Others simply called her the angel of the Crimea. She worked to reduce the hospital's death rate by 2/3. Okay, so we got to stop there for a second. Reduced the hospital's death rate by 2/3. Not only is that a staggering statistic, it is a statistic. No one before Nightingale had had the wherewithal to keep track of the wounded. She gathered data in meticulous records and found that when she presented the numbers that reflected the impact of her interventions, people responded favorably, often by opening up their wallets. We call this today performance-based funding. While Nightingale used her own money to make the hospital a cleaner, healthier, more efficient place for patients, she also mounted a letter-writing campaign which raised funds to purchase critical supplies. Many of her letters were printed in British newspapers, and that also helped bring in basics, including additional bandages, clothing, scrub brushes, better quality food, and she also ensured that all of the dirty clothing and linens be moved outside the hospital to be washed. Through stubbornness, selfless devotion, and sheer determination, Florence Nightingale transformed the profession of nursing forever. She gave dignity and honor to the role of the nurse and revolutionized hospital conditions, making them more organized and, above all, sanitary. She returned to her home in Derbyshire in 1856, at which time she had been a nurse for 5 short years, and she was hailed as a national hero. Though many of the male hospital team often resented her power to effect change, the public were so grateful to her that they raised a special fund to allow her to continue her work. She opened the Nightingale School of Nursing at St. Thomas's Hospital in London in 1860, finally making nursing a viable and respectable profession for women who desired employment outside the home. The year 2020 is branded the Year of the Nurse and the Midwife to commemorate the 200th anniversary of Nightingale's birth. And today, May 12th, 2020, we find ourselves again at war, and this time the battle knows no boundaries. From February 29th, the date of the first official U.S. death from domestically contracted COVID-19, through today, May 12th, there have been 81,009 American deaths in just 72 days. This is a horrible time to start your career. This is an amazing time to start your career. Patients need you now. Our communities need you now. The profession needs you now. They need your hands and your minds and your hearts, your humor, your compassion, and your enthusiasm. You have all of this and more to offer. We are sending you off into this great unknown without fanfare, without pomp, without circumstance, without saying a proper farewell. And we want you so desperately to fare well. You'll be asked to give much, but you will not fall. You will be pushed harder than expected, and you will not break. You will catch the winds under your wings and falter, but you will not fail. And when you hear the voice of doubt in your head that you're too new to have an opinion on how things are done, think about Florence, and that history is rarely made by well-behaved individuals. Although I do recommend that you follow hospital facility policy. You will make a difference, you will touch lives, and I can tell you with certainty, you'll be a hero to thousands of patients and their families as you travel through your career. Congratulations on completing your program and starting your journey as a nurse. Thank you so much for the honor of teaching you.
Tulsi Mamoni is a graduate of Washington State University College of Nursing, where she was president of the Simulation Club and championed the tutoring efforts for the College of Nursing's underclassmen. Kelsey graduated cum laude, where she was also known as the official nursing school spokesperson for the Yakima campus. As they transitioned to distant learning, she was in charge of speaking on behalf of the whole class when they were asked questions. Isn't it fitting that we get to hear from her today as she celebrates her and her fellow nurse graduates' phenomenal accomplishments? Welcome, Kelsey.
Hello, everyone. I feel honored to have been asked to speak today to address my fellow nursing graduates. Now, while every nursing program is different, I'm guessing that your programs, like mine, involved a lot of ridiculously long lectures. I promise I won't follow suit. But I can't guarantee there won't be a quiz at the end. Just kidding. When Chelsea asked me if I would speak, I said yes without a second thought. Then I realized soon thereafter that I had no idea how to write a graduation speech or what I would even say. I've never done this before. Where would I even start? So I took to the internet for guidance and found a plethora of graduation speeches. I read through and listened to many speeches given by famous people, professors, and new grads alike. They were good speeches. They were inspiring and heartwarming and motivating, but nothing that I came across truly resonated with me. The thing is, those speeches were given in a different time, and this year is not like other years. So I figured this speech shouldn't be like other speeches. Suffice to say, I don't think a single soul started nursing school 2 or so years ago thinking that our education would end like this. Clinicals canceled, schooling moving to Zoom, and graduation ceremonies being postponed or called off altogether. This is not how we were supposed to start our careers. I almost didn't want to address COVID-19 today. I don't know about you, but I, for one, am sick of hearing about it. I'm tired of seeing it in the news and on social media. I didn't want to address it, but I realized that I couldn't not address it. You see, this little virus has changed the world forever. It's the world that we will be caring for. We are entering this beautiful, wonderful career of nursing smack dab in the middle of a pandemic. Of course, this is not an ideal situation, but it will undoubtedly shape us as nurses. Not only will we be met with the usual challenges that come along with being new graduate nurses, like time management, coping with death, and finding our voices as nurses, but we'll also be trying to navigate the ever-changing COVID environment too. Jumping into nursing at a time like this will not be easy. But here we are, playing the hand that we've been dealt. In the face of adversity, we followed the lead of the nurses before us, picking ourselves up by the dance goes and stepping up to the plate. Yes, our experiences will guide us and our clinical practice as we further our careers. But I'd also be willing to bet that we will end up playing a large role in reshaping the landscape of healthcare for future generations too. You see, we're becoming nurses in a crazy time where PPE is scarce and disaster preparedness seems to have fallen by the wayside. The pandemic has highlighted many shortfalls in our current system, the system in which we will operate. I believe that we, by starting our careers in this broken battlefield, have the opportunity to heal not only our patients and ourselves, but our system. In nursing school, we talk a lot about primary prevention, early interventions put in place to avoid a problem altogether. However, we're still operating on a tertiary prevention model, damage control. Can you imagine if we were doing more primary prevention than tertiary prevention? Promoting health care, not sick care. Having the proper plans in place before a disaster strikes that allows us to mitigate a lot of those risks so that when something bad inevitably does happen, we're prepared for it and the damage is minimal. While it appears that we have been dealt a less than ideal hand, I believe that we've actually been presented with a unique opportunity, an ace in the hole, if you will. I believe that we can take this experience and bring it forward to make real, sustainable change for our future. So my request to all of us as we finish our degrees and crush the NCLEX is to be the change. Bring your passion for helping others to the table and help to heal the world into a little bit more beautiful place than when we found it. Thank you. Stay healthy, stay safe.
Kevin has over 15 years in emergency nursing, nursing education, and leadership. Kevin's professional experience includes pediatric and adult emergency care, trauma care, and program management in both in and out of the hospital. Kevin is also the host of a new podcast called Art of Emergency Nursing. He also routinely speaks at EMS and nursing conferences all around the country. We're proud to have him as one of our Tribe RN admin staff, and we're so thankful that he's joining us to share some wisdom.
Hey everybody, Kevin McFarland here, and I want to say a big congrats to all the new grad nurses out there. You've just completed what many consider to be one of the hardest degrees on the planet, so congratulations to you. Good for you. Whenever I get a chance to talk to new grads, I have 3 pieces of advice, and I'm going to give you those 3. 3 things to remember. One, your RN license is just a license to learn. The real learning starts now. You're going to learn at the bedside. You're going to learn with every patient, with every encounter, every day. Commit to being a better nurse tomorrow than you were today, and commit to learning something new on every single shift. I think that's a commitment that you owe to your patients, their families, and to your professors who spent the last couple years teaching you. And most importantly, to yourself. Secondly, get involved with a professional organization. I know you've heard me say that before, but it really does open up lots of opportunities, and lots of doors will open by being part of a professional organization. Go find your tribe, find your people. It's going to make your career a lot easier. Third is probably the thing you're going to want to hear the least, and that's going to be to continue your education. Continue your education, go forward. If you got your associate's degree, go back for your bachelor's. If you got your bachelor's and it makes sense, go for your master's. Or heck, why not go for a PhD and be the nursing professor that everybody loves? Keep going with your education. It's important as a profession that we do that constantly. I want to remind you to take good care of the patients, their families, and everyone around, and don't forget to take care of yourself. I want to remind you to take good care of the patients, their families, and don't forget to take care of yourself. I wish you well, good luck to you, and be brilliant.
Of course, I'm following all those amazing speakers. I'm not sure why I set it up that way. Perhaps I should introduce myself. Hi, I'm Chelsea, the founder of Tribe RN. I graduated from nursing school at the University of New Mexico in 2005. I quickly found my love for nursing in the pediatric ICU and have a true passion for our profession. I love patient care, learning, and teaching. For most of my career, I worked at the University of New Mexico Hospital. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to work with some phenomenal people at some of the most amazing facilities in the country. I was a gypsy nurse for approximately 4 years. Travel nursing was an amazing opportunity to learn, grow, and it truly opened my eyes to the versatility of our career. My passion is creating tools and resources for nurses and nursing students. My mission is to empower nurses and students through community, laughing together, learning together, and supporting one another. When I created this Facebook group, I had no idea it would blossom into what it is today. You all make me so proud. This group is amazing. You truly are the tribe. Now I get to address you, the new grads. I want to start by saying the class of 2020 is phenomenal. We are so excited to celebrate your next steps as you go from student to graduate nurse. The Tribe RN group is here to support you, cheer you on, and answer your questions along the way. The class of 2020 has faced unique challenges unlike ever before. You've risen above disruption, heartache, and virtual nursing school, but remained resilient and determined. Your strength and perseverance have been tested, and now you're in an incredible position to become the next generation of healthcare heroes with an extra dose of true grit. As you enter the nursing workforce, you'll be met with a lot of emotions and challenges, but the way in which you respond to those emotions and challenges is up to you. When that voice in your head is saying, "I'm not good at this," instead ask, "What am I missing?" When you just want to give up, turn your focus to, "I'll use my resources and my team and I'll figure this out. I want to keep going." Instead of thinking, "This is too hard," think, "This may take some extra time, extra resources, and extra effort, but I will get through this." Instead of focusing on that mistake you just made, because let's face it, we all make mistakes. Remember to say to yourself, I will learn from this mistake, I won't make it again, and I'll help others not to follow in my footsteps. When you find yourself looking at other nurses and thinking, I will never be that smart, I will never be that confident, instead, pursue them. Learn everything you can from that inspiring nurse. You can always turn a positive into a negative. It's sometimes difficult, but find someone you can lean on who can speak wisdom and truth to you. Perhaps you feel treated out of your clinical rotations or your preceptorship. Have no worries, because your real learning starts now. It's your time to shine. You are going to be amazing. Give yourself grace. Lean on your team. You've got this. I'm going to close today with some wonderful wisdom from Dr. Seuss. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting, so get on your way.